and welcome to the Theorem podcast. I'm Aspasia Provou and I'm here to shed light on alternative contemporary knowledge and suggest feasible ways it can be incorporated into our lives. The podcast today is about finding ourselves and reaching our full potential. My guest today is Charlotte Robert, a licensed mental health counselor based in Malaysia. After 15 years of working as a law lecturer in corporate communications and in media, and having reached the top of the ladder, she decided to pursue what was closest to her heart, and that was counseling. Charlotte counsels individuals, couples, and families, and finds a lot of fulfillment helping her clients who feel stuck in a certain situation in their lives. Her goal is to empower and inspire her clients to heal themselves and move on to live the most fulfilling lives they can and reach their full potential. Oh, I'm so eager to get this conversation started. Welcome, Charlotte, to the Theorem
Hi,
podcast.
Aspasia. Thank you for having me here, Aspasia. I'm very excited to be here as well.
So, I'll start off by asking you, how did that big career change come about? What led you to that?
Yeah, so it was a massive career change, but I think along the lines when I was in journalism itself, I realized that this was something that was always something I was passionate about. I used to do voluntary work with, I think it's called the Good Samaritans in England, but in Malaysia, it's called the Befrienders. So I used to go after work and volunteer with them and do like this counseling via the telephone. And then I did a 6 month counseling course again in my own time after work. And so I think there was always that affinity to want to counsel people. And finally, with journalism, you always need to have like a computer there. You need to, you needed a newspaper or a magazine or radio to get your voice across. But with counseling, I thought, here is something I can do for the rest of my life. I do not need any tools besides the knowledge that I have. I could be sitting at a bus stop next to someone, and every single person has some kind of issue or a problem that they're battling with. And this is something I felt I could do to help people just using whatever knowledge and experience I had gathered for the rest of my life. And it is so fulfilling to be able to do that. And so after I quit journalism, and because I had reached like the top of the ladder, there was nothing left to explore. There was a contentment within me that I could now close that chapter of journalism and open this chapter of counseling. Yeah.
Right. Wow. I kind of identify with you because I had this. I used to call it like an allergy to the computer, like a physical reaction to being stuck in front of the computer and talking on the phone. So I feel you. But my question here is, how did you find the courage to quit that job?
Mhm. It actually came at a time where I really felt I was at crossroads. I'm married, I have two kids, and I had just been headhunted by another company. I had just been promoted in the current company I was at, and my husband had just got a transfer to this place, which was like 8 hours away from where we live. And we live in the city, in the capital of Malaysia, Kuala Lumpur. And he had got a transfer to somewhere that was 8 hours away. And I had two kids who were 2 months and 18 months old. And without any full-time help, without any family that was, easily available to help me with the kids, I just had a childminder. And so I had this huge decision to make because journalism took a lot of long hours, and I knew I wasn't a 9 to 5 kind of person doing that nine to five kind of job. So here I was thinking, how am I going to raise my kids? How am I going to have this career that's got really long hours? And what's really important right now? Is it like, climbing higher on the career ladder, or just quitting this and raising the children while deciding how and when I can start pursuing counseling? So that's what I did. I quit the job and I took the two kids and I traveled that to that place where my husband had been transferred. And I started, afresh. And it was very hard for like 2 years. I was like being a stay at home mom. I was trying to do some freelance journalism, but I was thinking that I really need to start going with the career, with the counseling career. And so I enrolled in a master's for counseling, and that's how it all started. And from the start, yeah, from the day I started the counseling course, I found it nothing but exciting and fulfilling, and it identified with so much with me.
Wow. So it was a combination of factors. It was, on the one hand, the prior experience you had with counseling, kind of counseling, through your volunteer work, and
Yes.
the circumstance, the situation of being a new mom and wanting to be there for your kids. And well, I know many people, and of course, that your partner had moved away for work. So, still, I know so many people who have had such experiences and have similar life situation, and still cannot find the courage to make a change. And I'm wondering, why is that? Why are people so afraid to step out of their comfort zone?
Yeah, I think there are several reasons. One, it could be the finances. But I had reached a point where I told myself that no job is going to need me as much as these two little children. And nobody is going to be able to input into them and have that kind of vested interest in them as I did. So I was thinking I was ready to, really, move to a smaller place, move to a place that was so far away from the city and make all the financial cutbacks that I needed to. I think another reason is also because maybe they feel they have invested so much into their career that how can they just stop now? All those years of working, and then you put a stop to it, and can you go back? How friendly is the market going to be towards someone who has taken a short break or a long break in their career to now come back? So I told myself that I had done everything I wanted to do in journalism. That helped tremendously because I felt that I had no regrets. I don't have no regrets till today because I really felt that that entire chapter was closed. So
Mhm.
maybe, if this had happened 5 years earlier, even 3 years earlier, there's no way I would have quit because I would have thought there is still something to learn. I still need to climb higher. So maybe some people are at the point where they feel that if they had quit their careers, there was always going to be this sense of, you know, I could have done more. And it's not easy to be a stay-home mom. It's very, very challenging. It has its fair share of challenges. But having done everything I needed to do in journalism, I knew that there was nothing left unexplored, no stone left unturned. So that made it easier.
Hmm. Well, I'm thinking two things. When I had my first child and I decided to take maternal leave,
Mhm.
um, I realized that when I returned to work, I was demoted. So these reasons, both the financial and the worry that things will change at work, and all of the time one has invested in their career, and all of these things you mentioned, they are valid reasons. Yet, the new thing you brought to the table is that if someone has felt fulfilled with what they've done so far, there can be many things along the way in our lives that change the priorities and how we view life. So for me, it's very important that we have the opportunity and we take the time to take a look at how our situation has evolved and what's important right now and what's less important right now. So
Yes.
um, Yes, these are very valid reasons, yet things change.
Yes.
And sometimes the blueprint that we follow is what our parents have done or what people around us do. And this is a huge trap. What is your take on this?
So it's interesting how you mentioned about the parents, because for my mom, she comes from this generation where you have to work. There's like a certain identity attached to a working person that is so much higher and held in better esteem than someone who is a stay-at-home mom. That's my mom's generation. And so she always encouraged me to go back to work. But for me, I felt that when I studied counseling, I found out that the first 2 years of a child's life, the attachment they form in the first 2 years is so important, because it goes on to dictate whether the child has a secure attachment, an avoidant attachment, or an insecure attachment. And to me, it was really that this is where I need to be right now. Priorities changed. What I saw in front of me was far more important than a career. So, to me, I knew this is what I needed to do. I needed to spend this time with the kids. And then I could go on to try and, step back, get back into that whole career market. But yeah, for my parents, it was a very different scenario. And I had to learn to hold on to what I believed in, because to me, that was more meaningful.
Charlotte, what empowered you to do that? To be able to say, okay, this is what my mom thinks, but this is what I want.
I think it goes back again to my upbringing, because I had a father who was like a weekend father, and had very, really, I would say his role in my life was hardly there. And then I had a mother who was extremely busy working. So again, it was her role again as an attentive parent. She had the job of having to be the breadwinner and raise the kids, and she had a lot going on her plate. So I wanted something different for my kids. I learned a lot about what not to do watching my parents, and I wanted to do things very differently from for my children, because I felt that they really do not ask to be here, right? It is our choice to have the kids and to raise the kids. So I felt that I had to be the best mother I could possibly be, and there was no substitute for parenting where time is concerned. You can't cut corners by cutting out the time that you invest with them. So I felt I needed to be there. I needed to spend that time with them, and I needed to sow into their lives while they were at that age.
Mhm, mhm.
Yeah, that empowered me a lot, knowing that what I was doing was the right thing because of what had happened to me while I was growing up.
Yes, I feel you because I too had a very busy mom. And yes, so before I ever had kids, I decided that this is not what I will do, especially when my kids were younger. And Charlotte, I've in previous conversations we've had, I heard you advocating um, um, that people don't stay in a conventional way of thinking, that um, people mm, find the way around, blocks and barriers. And
Yes.
could you please speak on this?
Yeah, sure. I think one of the main reasons I went into counseling was to help people who were stuck to be unstuck. We can get so set in our way of thinking where we think, I have no choice. It's such a common thing we hear, right? I have no choice. But in every situation, you do have a choice. So, it's like, I was telling you about my father. It's like, I grew up in an environment where my father was abusive. And my mother stayed in that abusive marriage because she felt that she didn't have a choice. It was being known as someone who was a divorcee, or having the stigma of being divorced, or even being separated, to her was just, something she just never entertained. Because if you marry for life. You just do not leave, even if the person is abusing you. So I grew up in an environment like that, thinking here is this independent woman. She's intelligent, she's capable, she's raising us by herself, she's the main breadwinner. And yet, when it comes to something like this, she just could not get out of it. So she stayed for the rest of her life until my father passed away in an unhappy, unfulfilled marriage, because she felt that this was it. She was just stuck in it. She could not find her way out because she was governed by her upbringing and the beliefs of her time, and it was in her head, and she just couldn't get it out. And I told myself, this is not who I am going to be. I am not going to be in positions where I am stuck, because there is always a choice. And it's just a matter of whether you want to take responsibility for your situation and face whatever consequences your decision has led you to, or whether you don't. A lot of
Well,
people stay in comfort zones, which is
yes.
really why they stay stuck.
Well, mm, well, it's easier said than done to
True.
just take responsibility and take the decision, make the decision, and move on. So, how can somebody feel more empowered, feel stronger to do that, to take this step?
Okay, so the first thing I think I would say is, sometimes we can hear things, but it doesn't click or it doesn't resonate. And sometimes you just hear it at a certain point in your life, and suddenly it just makes so much sense. And there is this line, right? That the only person's behavior that you can change is yours. You
Uh huh.
absolutely cannot change anyone else's behavior. And it just hit me, I think about maybe 3 or 4 years ago, that why do we always feel that I will be happy if this person, uh, would just change, or this person would just do that, then, I would be so much happier. But it is really your behavior that you can control. You cannot control someone else's. And when you realize that, you also realize that you have to take responsibility for your own actions in this relationship, or in whatever situation you're in. And I think if people actually let that really, they reflect on that and really dwell on that, then I think it would actually make a lot of difference in their life. That is the first step, I feel, is how you just have to accept the fact that you cannot control another person, whoever, your mom, your dad, your brother, your sister, your husband, your child, your best friend, your boss, your colleague. You cannot say, he makes me so angry, or she makes me so angry, because then it is no responsibility taken on your part. It's very easily just shifted to the other person. So you give the other person control. Why are they having that control over your emotions, your feelings, your day, your situation? Take it back and tell yourself, I have control over my own actions.
Wow. Oh, yes. Yes, we do tend to blame our situation or our environment for our bad luck, even our bad luck. And all of this inhibits our growth. And by doing this, we do give our control and our power to those things.
True.
And what are the steps to take our control and power back?
Okay, so I think the first thing we have to realize is this: from the time we're born, right? The first thing, as a baby, you use all your sensory system, your hearing, your sight, your smell, your touch. So everything kind of gets absorbed as a baby, as a toddler, as a toddler, that everything comes in through the senses. So, is this oh, my someone is showing me a flashcard, or is this what an apple is? So everything is through your senses. From there, it goes on to what is known as your knowledge filter. So then you are told, oh, look, this is a cat, and this is what a cat looks like. So that is your knowledge filter. So from the knowledge filter, you ask yourself things like, Hang on, yeah. Okay, so your knowledge filter is like when you make a decision. Am I going to disregard this information? Do I want this information? Do I believe the information is true, but I need to investigate this information further? Or do you decide that this information is meaningful? And if you decide, oh, okay, it's meaningful, then it goes through your value filter. And that value filter is you then assign a value. Oh, pleasurable information. I want this. It's positive for me. Oh gosh, this is so gruesome. I do. It's so unpleasant, negative. Do not want to know this at all. And then it goes to your information where you consider it's neither this nor that. So it goes under neutral. So you have these three: the sensory, the knowledge, and then the value filter. And all of us go through this. And that, all of this is what leads up to your perceived world, which is your reality. And
Right.
everybody's reality is different. So every single thing is just perception. So, like you can go to a party and someone tells you, I don't think you look really nice in that dress. Oh, oh yeah, you're having a bad hair day. So you could take this really negatively, or you could laugh it off and think, I'm not going to let this ruin my party. So one person could laugh it off, one person could get really annoyed by it and say something back to that person. So what makes you different? What makes this person different from the other person? Possibly the person who took it badly has been criticized a lot for their looks. But this person is very secure in how they look because they've always been told positive things about their body image. So everything is about perception. There is no real world. Your real world is your perceived world. So I think
Wow.
people need to know that it is just a matter of perception. And if you look at counseling and all the modalities, just about every modality will tell you that the thing to do is to change how you think. It's all about flipping the way you think, because how you think, how you act, your emotions and your physiology in your body follows. And you only have direct control over how you think and how you act. You have indirect control over your physiology and your feeling. So control that first. And always tell yourself the only person that behavior you can control is yours.
Well, that has endless potential, what you're describing. And let's use, please, an example. For example, if I was told that I am not good enough and I'm lazy when I was a child, how can I change this perception of myself around?
Okay, so what is the evidence that you see right now? Would you tell yourself right now that you really are not good enough?
No.
So it is like this voice in your head that still comes back sometimes the and tells you,
The parent
yeah,
says you're not good enough, you're lazy, you're a bad girl, for example. How can, well, and I have evidence because I'm an adult right now that things are not, this is not true. But still, the voice is there. And the voice is so deep inside me. And I think right now I'm speaking on behalf of many, many people who
yes,
have
yes,
this inner voice telling them,
yes.
"Oh, babe, you cannot do this. Oh, she's better than you. Oh, you're gonna mess up." The inner voice. So how can you make it shut up and replace it with somebody that is uh, better?
Yeah. So I went through a similar kind of upbringing where my parents had extremely high academic expectations. So my value or my worth was only as good as my results. So if I did well, I had some kind of worth of value in their eyes. But if I didn't, I was of no value at all. So I grew up thinking, oh, okay, I've done well here, so they are pleased with me. And it is almost like genetic in every person to seek validation from parents. You could be 70 or 80 years old, you're still seeking validation from parents because of that extremely important role they have played in raising you. So parents play an extremely important part in a child's life. So what happened is my self-esteem got severely affected, especially as a teenager, and then it got affected over the years. And I went once for a workshop for counseling, and at the end of it, she asked me. We were all given like this survey at the end of the whole thing to talk about how the workshop was, and then they asked us to list our strengths and our weaknesses. So I was so quick, yeah, to fill up weakness, 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 weakness. And there was a complete blank for strengths. I could not fill up even one. And people around me were coming and saying, but Charlotte, you can say this and you can say this. And because they saw all of that in me during that 3-day workshop. And I was stuck. I was just stuck. I could not fill up a single strength. I submitted the paper with that entire section blank. And then I went, and then she told me, are you sure? And then after that, I said, I can't think of anything. So everyone came and told me what to write. And then I was like, oh yeah, there's this and there's this and there's that. And I went back and I told myself, I do not want to be stuck with this. Because look at the facts. And and I went through everything that I had achieved, everything that I was good at, everything I could do. And I said, this is just such a lie that, that I couldn't find the strength. But then I told myself, all these voices are the voices of my parents. And why are their voices so strong? So I looked back. I did a whole genogram on my parents. So I looked at their parents and their parents' and so there were like 4 or 5 generations in that genogram. So this is not just a basic family tree. Yeah, this is about what did everybody work as? How old were they when they died? What did they die of? Were they divorced? Were they separated? What was the economic situation like at that time? And it was like so big and so thorough. And when I saw that, I saw what my parents' upbringing was like and why they so strongly believed that the only way forward was academic and your only worth as was academically all your achievements. You just had to achieve, achieve, achieve. And then it was exactly the voices of their parents telling them, and probably their parents' telling them. And this just went down the generation. And I told myself, someone has to cut this. Someone has to cut this vicious cycle of untruths and damage that it can do to a child. And then I told myself that I had to do this, but also to do it in such a way that you don't carry that hurt and that anger and that bitterness towards your parents, because at any given time, whenever we say or do something, it is based on all the knowledge that we have accumulated, all the skills we have accumulated, and whatever we have learned from birth till now, and our values. And we put all of that together and we make a decision and we say something. And that's all my parents knew. At that time, that's all they knew. And so they
Mhm.
passed it on, not knowing how damaging it was to us. And then I told myself that I now know better. I have learned better and I have to break this cycle. And I just have to understand it comes from there. Because before that, it was very hard. It was years of carrying all this bitterness and anger towards them for the extremely high expectations, but not seeing me, not hearing me, not valuing me for who I was. So I had to do that genogram, and I had to see who they were, and I had to tell myself that that is all they knew how to do at that time, but I know better. And I have seen everything that I have achieved, and the facts before me tells me this is not me. So every time it comes back, because it will and it still does, I just have to consciously tell myself that look at the facts, look at the evidence before me, it is not true. And that voice cannot be louder than my voice.
Wow, I love this. I love this. I think that not only this what you just described not only helps us, you know, shift this resentment and bitterness of our parents. But yes, it also allows us, it allows for the space, it allows for the light to come in to actually see our real value.
Yeah.
And I love it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, because both parts are so soothing, you know.
Yeah. It's very important for us to be kind to ourselves, because when we have parents like that, we tend to just achieve and be very hard on ourselves. We because it's like that. Am I worth this? Am I, is am I ever going to be good enough? So it's easy to be unkind to us, but it's important to be kind to us. That there's an example. All of us have five genetic basic needs: the need for love and belonging, the need for power, the need for survival, of course, the need for fun and freedom. And that's genetic. There's no need to feel guilty for wanting fun and freedom, because we all need it. And I had this client once who grew up with many younger siblings, and the parents were working and they couldn't afford to have someone just coming in to help raise the kids. And so every opportunity, my client had to like raise the children and help to do the housework and the clothes and the cooking and everything else. And by the age of 18, he was done. He was like, I am so not doing this anymore. Because imagine the childhood and the teenagehood filled with that amount of responsibility. So at 18, he ran away from home. And unfortunately, like he got into a lot of bad company and went, we're a very intelligent client, but just decided that at that time what he wanted was the fun and the freedom, because he never had it. But it led to a lot of bad decisions in his life. And by the time I met him, he was like this full grown middle-aged person. But within him, he was carrying this guilt, and this shame, and he said, it was all my fault. I could have maybe gone home. I could have like just taken some time out and then gone back to the house. But I chose this career. I mean, I chose this life. I chose the friends. I chose to go into all the vices that I ended up in. And as a result, finances affected, career affected, no relationships, no, not nowhere, no security, and health got severely affected as well. And he said, it's my fault. I did this. And I sat down with him and I just said, let's have a look at the five basic needs, the genetic needs of a human being. Which one do you think is the strongest for you? Because we all have those needs. It's just a matter of which one is stronger. Like for a lot of people, it's love and belonging and it's power, but for some, it's fun and freedom. And for my client, it was the fun and freedom. Like 30 years later, after running away from home, it was still fun and freedom. And going back to when he was 18, it was still fun and freedom. And so I told him, your action at that time was just motivated by your search for to fulfill that basic need. You were just fulfilling that need that you had at that time, and it was a basic need. I said, whatever you were to do at that time, you would have done the same thing, because that was the strongest need that you had at that time. And I said, it's a genetic need. It's not something that you decided, oh, I just want to crave this and I'm going for that. So then he looked at me, like, oh my God, all these years of carrying that, so many years of carrying that. And he realized that he didn't have to. And all of a sudden, that just left him. And he felt that now he can move on. Now he can go on to live his life, knowing that what he did at that time was just fulfilling that basic need. So we need to know ourselves. What is our need at that time? Why do we say what we say? Why do we do what we do? Which need are we fulfilling? Because they are all genetic basic needs. And not to be hard on ourselves, because that's really what we're doing. We're just trying to fulfill that need. What we do is motivated by fulfilling that need.
So
So
you talked
you
about
talked about
what
what
finding out
finding
what
out
we are
what
and
we
what we
are and
aren't.
what we aren't. Yes.
How though do we reach our full potential?
How do we reach? Okay, we have to know ourselves first. I think that that is really where we start, right? I really believe that none of us were put on this earth to be a waste of space. We all were put here for a purpose, and we all have skills. We all have talents. We all have passions. We all want to do. A lot of people actually want to leave legacies behind, and yeah, we all want to do something that's going to be valuable. To me, I want to impact and touch as many lives as I can. But in reaching your full potential, you have to come out of your stuck positions. Because if you are there in that stuck position and you feel I don't have a choice, you are always going to be there in that stuck position. So you need to break out of that. And you need, it's not easy. And I know I say you need to just come out of it, but I know it's not easy. I think people need to get help if they cannot figure this out for themselves. It's always very helpful to sit with someone and just vent, talk, because so much clarity can come just by talking about your situation. And I can't tell you how many times I've heard, I have no choice. I didn't have a choice. Do we have a choice? There's just no choice. I have to do it like this. But if you were to take a step back and just think about it, do you really not have a choice? Is it fear that's holding you, anxiety, worry, responsibilities, finances, stigma, society? What are they going to say? What is it that is actually stopping you from coming out of that position you're stuck in, and moving on to reach your full potential? Because there is just so much in being able to reach your full potential that you can do, right? So I think you need to see someone, get some clarity, get some guidance, get some advice on how can I now come out of this, and know that you have to just trust yourself, that you have what it is within you, that you yourself are good enough to do this. And just to, if you are someone who prays, to pray, but and have a good circle of friends, and yeah, to tell yourself that you can do this. You look ahead, look at what's ahead of you. If you can get out this position, what is there that's waiting for you? Because the possibilities and the possibilities of things you can do is just endless. So yeah, I think it takes patience, it takes courage, but a lot of time it just takes that one person to believe in you that you can also do it.
Yes, and it's wonderful when uh, you can be that person for yourself.
Exactly. We all need to constantly work on ourselves. We are never really quite done. Yeah, so we really need to spend time. Life is such a busy roller coaster. It's so important to take time out just to reflect. Where am I today? Where do I want to be? What are the steps I need to take in the next 1 year, the next 5 years, to get to the person that I want to be? What is holding me back? What are my stuck situations? Look at your perceived world. Take a piece of paper, write a whole column on perceived world. Who is in my life right now? I have my wife, I have my kids, I have a house, I have a dog, I have this amount of money in the bank, and I believe in this. That's your perceived world. Where are you unhappy in here? What is this situation that you're not happy with? Next to it, write a column with what's in my quality world. I have a house in the city. I would like a house by the beach. I do not have a partner. I would like to have a partner. I have this amount of money in the bank, but this is how much I want. I believe in this, but I would like to expand my belief to encompass so many other things. So what is it where are you stuck? Which point are you stuck at? So I had a client where all I needed to do was this with him. He had no partner. He wasn't happy with the career. He was renting a house. He just felt like life was a drudgery. He wasn't getting to what he wanted. But when he saw this perceived world, quality world, the difference between the two, then he thought, oh, okay, I can start with the job. I can start by looking for a job. I can get this much more money. That can help me to move from rental to owning. And then if I am a happier person, maybe it will attract people to me, and maybe then I can find a partner. So, where are you stuck? What is it that you need to do to get out of that stuck position? And I cannot emphasize this enough, that you always have a choice. You do not have to be where you are, because it is merely your perception. Another person is not thinking that way. I had a call recently from someone who was just beating herself up because she felt she had failed as a mother. And I asked her, tell me exactly what is it? Where do you think you have failed? And she listed all this. And at the end of it, I thought, okay, 70%, you're doing it all right. 30%, maybe there's some room to improve to meet the needs of your child. But to her, it was a 10 and 90. 10% maybe I have succeeded, 90% I have failed. Her perception, my perception. So it is a lot to do with your perception. Change your perception, change the way you think, and tell yourself that the only person's behavior you can control is yours. Do not try to control another person. And tell yourself that you always have a choice. Get out of that stuck position and go on to realize your full potential and to live your best life.
Charlotte, I'm thinking of the main two kind of people in the context of this conversation. The people who believe that they have no choice on the one hand,
Yeah.
and they just chew on their fears and their insecurities and all of those things. And on the other hand, people who see nothing but choices. And these people are not afraid of failure. These people learn fast and they are unstoppable. And of course, there's everything else in between. But right now, I will take these two examples for this conversation. And I know many people of the first kind, people who just cannot see that there is any other choice. And it's the most disempowering thing they can do for themselves. And on the other hand, the ones that see choices everywhere, these people um, sometimes are not as qualified as the first ones, and still they have amazing lives. So there is so much to learn from this, so much to see, so much to
Yeah.
implement in our lives. And I think that sometimes looking within is necessary to start finding what we are not first. What we were saying about the parents and the voices and all of those things, what we
Yeah.
aren't, in order to find what we are and what we want and pursue it. And yeah, and I love this whole, um, all the ideas you talked about. I think they're precious. These ideas are what will help us live well, live in the lives we want, and
Yes.
feel ourselves. And yes, I talk about this and I get goosebumps. Um,
Yeah.
and I truly believe that everybody on earth should be living like this. And
Yeah.
at the
One
same
of
time, I
the
understand that it's so much easier said than done. I understand this because
definitely
I'm a person as well. And of course, I've dealt with this myself. But yes, what were we saying?
that what was something that's very crippling is this: what will people think?
Mhm.
And I grew up with that. What will people think? To the point where you really tell yourself, I cannot think that, because at the end of the day, what role does that person have in your life? It is so important what only a handful of people think. Yeah. So you cannot base your life on what so many other people are going to think. And I think back on my mom and how she refused to leave in any way, because what would people think?
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
as a result, all the lives around her that were so deeply affected, and even hers and the children, and so deeply affected. But that was what held strong. What will people think? And what a waste. What a total waste. I lived it, that waste of what will people think. And so, I personally refuse to do that to myself. I refuse to be stuck anywhere along my life, no matter how difficult, because there will be difficulty, isn't it? When you want to come out of a certain situation, you have to do the work. You have to live those difficult periods. And but at the end of the day, you take control of your life. You take control of your future. You take control of the path that you choose, and that comes with so much fulfillment, to realize your full potential and to realize that, oh, all these things are open to me. It's wide open to me, and it's just a matter of me believing in myself and doing this because I know I have the potential to do it.
Charlotte, I think that everything you shared is a treasure for all of us. Thank
Thank
you
you.
very, very much. Thank you for listening to the Theorem podcast. Connect with me on social media at Aspasia Provou and at theorem.podcast and share your thoughts. You may support us on Patreon. Visit the website aspasiaprovou.com/theorem for more. Talema sindoma. Meaning talk to you soon in Greek. In this podcast, Charlotte Roberts cited some examples of her clients with their consent. These clients had been in stuck positions but have gone on to successfully overcome their situations. She also mentioned the framework of choice theory.